Jolan, true friends, a warning as usual. We are in the time of Star Trek Picard. This episode is spoiler laden when concerned with episode 4 of Star Trek Picard, Absolute Candor, and just about everything else we could throw in to it. So there's lots and lots of spoilers, but if you're here for it, please continue and enjoy. Otherwise, please attend carefully. Let's see here. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today, we are focused on further discussions of Star Trek Picard, Episode 4, Absolute Candor, which is the way that Trek on the Tube Sean already lives by. And so we finally figured out what we can call your philosophy in life.
Oh,
it's
is
called
that it?
Absolute. It's Absolute Candor.
Okay.
You've never told a lie, no
That's
matter
not
how
true,
harsh it,
I
no
think.
matter how harsh it is to hear. Okay, so this is weird. I'm in a new configuration. I'm standing up, and so I can see everyone. But I'm used to where, like, when I'm speaking, it's me on the screen, and then it switches to whoever's speaking. So I have to introduce everyone right away. So I'm going to start with Blair, who's new. Hello.
Hello.
Do you want a handle on the show? Do you want to be like I'm Starfleet Boy, he's Trek on the Tube, Gary's Trekker Prize.
Oh, I didn't even. Had I known, I would have thought about a name for myself. I don't know. Canuck Trekker. Let's go with that.
Canuck Trekker?
It's a Canadian
I like
thing.
that. I know. I love that. I think, but I never knew it was. I always say Canuck, so now I know the right way to say it. It's Canuck.
Canuck. Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm
If you're in
obsessed
Quebec,
with
you could say
Canada.
Canuck, perhaps. But
Sean is in Quebec, so is it Canuck or Canuck?
Yeah, they would probably say Canuck. Probably. So, but what
Yeah,
do they know?
That's amazing. I think, is that the equivalent to, like, I wonder if it's like how here in the United States, we sometimes refer to ourselves as like Yankees.
Yeah.
Or Yanks. Is it similar to that?
Pretty
That's
much.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Blair, it's your first time on Starfleet Boy, but I haven't gone into great detail about this with Gary and Sean, but this is also our first time seeing each other in many years. We've stayed in touch over the years. We talk
Sure.
on random channels of communications, but this is the first time I've like seen you in video in like a lot of years, which is so exciting.
Not an eyesight camera in what, 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, it's insane. Audience, for those of you who don't know, when the eyesight camera came out, it was like for people who were like Apple computer what do you call us when we're fully devoted to one platform?
Fanboys?
Fanboys, yeah. Or
Crazy.
some people say it's the cult of Apple, whatever. The first time we got video conferencing, or it was called the eyesight camera, and as a matter of fact, because I knew we were going to talk, I brought mine.
Ah.
This is the original eyesight camera that you and I spoke
Crazy.
on.
I don't have mine anymore.
What the hell is that?
It's a camera. This is a webcam. The very
also a
first
mic, isn't it?
Apple branded webcam, and it's a professional, beautifully sounding mic. We used to hear each other in gorgeous,
That's an interesting
crisp
product.
audio. Yeah, isn't it? It looks like the probe from Star Trek 4.
Oh, yeah, it does. Does it make
But
whale
shinier.
sounds?
So true.
Did
Did you go on a mission saving whales the first time you guys met or something?
Pretty much. It was a lot of like trying to figure out how to Skype over, or not Skype, sorry, how to use it over QuickTime, I think, right? Because oh, nice.
Yeah, there was like a I think
Oh, that
actually
man.
if I'm not mistaken, iMessages debuted at the same time or just a little bit before. And so what you did is you did it through AIM, I think. Were we
Yeah,
using
yeah,
AIM
I think so.
handles through iMessages, and then all you had to do is click the video button, and that was it. Memory lane.
Good times, guys. Good times.
Look at
Early tech.
Gary and Sean are like, people just didn't have webcams in all their devices. Like it wasn't just like, yeah, but
Nope.
no, they didn't. So it was pretty cool, and it worked on something called Firewire, which is pretty neat. So there's a lot of great tech shows like iJustine that you can go through memory lane and see these things and stuff like that. And I think actually, not I don't know how long you boys have been on YouTube, but Blair and I also were YouTubers like back in the day when it first came out. I don't know. Did you had a YouTube channel, didn't you?
I did a video blog
That's right.
long time ago. I think it was on Vimeo actually, as opposed to YouTube, but it might still be there. Who knows? You know, videos, you put them out in the ether, and who knows where they're going to land one day, so they'll come back. It was all
So
about
this is
things happening in Toronto, so
exactly
that was fun.
very cool, very cool. Anyways, it's such a joy to finally have you on Starfleet Boy. We've been talking about it for a little bit, and so you're here
Yeah,
now.
thanks for
So
having me.
to continue the welcoming, it's a tradition on Starfleet Boy for the first time for our new guests to tell briefly their Star Trek story. So it's just a thing, kind of like an icebreaker for everyone. So if you don't mind sharing your Star Trek story with us, we'd love to hear it.
Sure. So I mean, I got into it around with the Next Generation. It was probably like 10 or 11, and you know, got hooked into it right away. And actually, you know, it followed through with DS9 and Voyager and everything. But before that, with TNG, I wrote a script because, as every 12-year-old does, they want to write a script and be on the show, right? So it was a vehicle for me to be on the show. I didn't know how, you know, I didn't know formatting for television stuff or anything like that. So I just kind of wrote it. I think it was maybe 24 pages. It took, you know, the whole story was my best friend and I. The Enterprise had to go back in time to 1992 or whatever for some reason, and these two boys were watching the show, the Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then suddenly the Enterprise beamed us up because we knew what was going to happen in this storyline or something. There was some like weird meta thing going on where like the story had already happened on a show, and then the Enterprise came back and we needed to figure it out for them. Anyways, I sent it into Paramount, and a couple months later, I got a huge package back from them with a 2-page signed letter from Brandon Braga, saying like, unfortunately, we can't use your script. However, duh. We, you know, he was like very encouraging of me writing and continuing to develop my voice as a writer. And he sent me the Writer's Technical Bible, one of the signed player cards that or like trading cards that they had back then of him. I got 2 signed scripts and the episode guide up to, I think it was season 5 at that point. So up to season 5 at that point. And it's somewhere in my parents' storage locker, I think, or in the attic or something like that. But I still have all that stuff. So that's sort of, oh, and then he did say, sorry, I got that in the summer, and he said, I'm coming to a convention in Toronto in October, come and find me. And I'd sent photos of my friend and I, just, you know, our headshots, so that they knew what we looked like, and they would be like, oh yes, we'll cast you for sure. And so when I went to I went to the convention, and it was Brandon Braga, Jerry Taylor, and Ronald D. Moore, and they were at a table after they spoke on stage, and I was one of the last people to go up. And Brandon looked up, and he, without me saying anything, he was like, "Oh, you're Blair, right?" And I was like,
Oh wow.
you know, jaw on the floor. I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Wait off to the side. I want to talk to you afterwards." I cannot for the life of me remember what he said to me because I was so starstruck at that point, and the fact that he like knew who I was. But I think he was just very like thank you so much for writing, and like that was, you know, a very interesting story and blah blah blah. But you should continue to write and whatnot. So I did. I then went on to study at the National Theatre School in Montreal for playwriting, and now I don't do that anymore. Now I'm a graphic designer, and I write really well structured emails. But other than that, so that's my sort of like story.
You had your season though, which is amazing. You did follow one of your dream pursuits, and you know things don't have to be forever; they can be for a time, as Jean-Luc says in this episode about living on Vashti. So that was kind of very appropriate, and I loved it. Sean's laughing at me. I can't believe you tied it into this.
The time was impeccable.
Well done. Well done.
That was really touching. I did not know that story, so to me that was super touching that A, I was learning about it for the first time, and B, that you shared it on my show. So that's very, very cool. All right.
I did write to him again. Sorry, just really quickly. I wrote to him again when I finished at NTS, and I didn't know if he was still working at Paramount, but I sent it off to them. I never heard back from him, but just wanted to say, like, thank you so much for encouraging, and this is what I've done so far. So, okay.
We think that Brandon Praga from time to time does watch Starfleet Boy, so I'll make sure to put a little tag and maybe he'll watch this.
I would very much like Brandon, him to start working on Star Trek Picard.
This is Blair now. And I'm sure
I have a beard.
Actually. He's a neat guy.
This wasn't here before, so
imagine me with By the way, full disclosure, guys, this is not Starfleet Boy. I am the emergency podcasting hologram. Starfleet Boy was really busy and couldn't be here today, so I apologize in advance if I'm a little glitchy, but that's the case, and so just letting you know.
Hologram.
This is not the ESH.
I'm actually a Zen.
Starfleet Boy. Oh wow. That's amazing. I want to be a synth. I wonder, actually, I might be Soji. So Starfleet Boy G. Okay, never mind. That was bad. So Blair, normally we do a summary beforehand, but these are further discussions. It's a new part of Starfleet Boy. I've never gone crazy where I just want to make more and more episodes of discussion about Star Trek before Star Trek Picard. So now this is a thing. So these are further discussions. So we're not going to do a summary, which is kind of exciting. We just go right into it.
This is exciting. This no summary is brand new frontiers for you.
Blair will be on many more Starfleet Boys. In fact, I'm gonna send you the schedule so you could tack on to some of the TNG discussions, and we definitely do summaries on those, so you'll have a chance to experience the Starfleet Boys summary. So I think we all have kind of on Twitter figured out what each of us think of this episode, except Blair. So I'll let you go first. Why don't you share your first raw thoughts about episode 4 of Star Trek Picard, and then I guess kind of catch us up on how you feel about Star Trek Picard in general, because in the first 4 episodes.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but okay.
Yeah, it's your first time. It's kind of like you gotta warm you up a little.
No, go ahead.
But this is the part, I guess, if there are any protocols to establish that we do interrupt freely, so you may be interrupted at any point. So.
Cool.
There we go.
So episode 4, I thought was very interesting. I kind of like seeing another side of the Romulans that we haven't really seen before, just in terms of like their daily life. And I mean, it's different, right? Because the planet's exploded and they've all been dispersed throughout the galaxy. But it's cool to see sort of a different side of them, and also just learning about that priest or priestess and how deadly they are.
The warrior nuns. They're the warrior nuns. But they do remind me of the Vulcan priestess. They're a very similar kind of idea, I think, to that.
Yeah. I feel like everything's sort of building up, right? Like there's not. I thought it was a great episode because I liked the storyline and where it's going, and just sort of figuring out like the little clues about what Picard's been doing in the past 20 years, and what how Starfleet sort of dealt with the evacuation of the Romulans, etc. So I think from a storytelling perspective, the past 4 episodes have been very methodical and sort of just laying down the groundwork for what I can only imagine is going to be quite a payoff at the end of the season, or at least a great start to the second season, or
a nice cliffhanger type thing.
Yeah,
I wonder if we are going to get a completion of some sort at the end of this season. But I'm excited. I have no idea, and I don't care. I don't care. Whatever Jean-Luc wants to do, I'll do. Oh, here's my gimmick that I was going to do. So I bind my sword here and now to Star Trek Picard.
Is that a real one?
What's that?
Is that a real
It's a
one?
real sword. Yeah, this is a real sword.
But I hope it's not sharp.
It's my sword. It is sharp.
Oh my days.
No, it's very sharp. It can actually pierce a person. I'm a fencer. I fenced for 9 years. I don't know if you knew that. And so,
not with that.
Well, no,
you
don't. You do actually. You do. So I was also in the medieval club.
So
it's called the SCA.
You're Elnor. You were the long Elnor.
That's what I'm telling. I love the storyline. I feel like this is the best Star Trek character. I relate 100%. I wish I love my parents. I don't wish any harm to them. But if I lost them in a supernova and then was for a short time raised by Picard, I'd be in heaven. It would have been an amazing story. But I'm glad I got my parents.
Well, then Picard would have lost you in a fire.
What's that?
Picard,
I know Picard
would have lost you in a fire. So
Renee, poor Renee. But Mary Jo. Mary Jo, is it Tremble?
Trimble, isn't it?
Yeah, she was the queen of the society that I was a part of. She and her husband were king and queen. It's called the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronisms, and it's basically a medieval club. And I was inspired by my high school history teacher to join the medieval club. So I've had this sword. This is not my fighting sword. This is actually a display sword. It's a replica of Excalibur. But and you can see it is. I do fight with it, so it is kind of messed up. You shouldn't though. But I was a squire. I never made it to a knight. So like Elnor. I was not like Elnor. I was never. I was never.
Yeah, I'm glad you never made it in a knight, because otherwise we would have to call you Sir Sohail or something.
As it was, we'd have to call him like Sir Captain Starfleet Boy.
Sir Captain Sohail. Starfleet Boy.
Oh wow! I'm actually an admiral. All of you guys are captains. Just FYI. I don't know if you know this, but I got moved up in rank when Star Trek Picard premiered.
You're the one that's promoting yourself. So I mean, does that really count? Just giving yourself promotions.
Get off my bridge. Did you guys? I have a bunch of questions here. What did you guys think of Elnor and that character, and like how he was kind of his introduction, if you will? Anyone?
Honestly, I think it was flawlessly done. The only complaint that came out of this house was wife on the tube noticed that the kid Elnor has blue eyes and adult Elnor has brown eyes, and she was quite pissed off by that. But I didn't know. Do you know that eye
color changes from childhood to adult though? Does she know that?
From when you're like a baby. It doesn't change.
No, it can change. No, it can actually. No, I'll have to.
But it doesn't go from blue to brown. Like if you have.
I could have sworn.
You don't have
that. Anyway. I know someone in elementary school whose eyes were green and they turned like a hazel brown when they.
But actually, Sean, you can just justify that because you saw Jana from her birth, and her eye color must have changed a little bit ever since.
Yeah, but it's not.
Well, that's different.
It's not from when you're 10 years old to.
Yeah, but how do you know that's the same for Romulans, bro?
We don't know.
Well, we get back to this.
We know nothing about Romulans.
Can also talk about how he went from a North American accent to a Australian accent from childhood to adulthood.
Dude was Australian.
I didn't even realize that. That's really funny.
Just a little minor thing.
We can just say that because this is the planet that they're on is basically like Romulans and humans kind of coexisting, but then becoming kind of separated. You could say that a lot of the people, like a lot of the humans on that planet, for some reason, like people from Australia, all of the Australians pissed off from Australia because it's too dangerous, so they went to this other planet.
but it's also equally dangerous.
I love that you would say that, because when I traveled in Europe, I went to Parma in Italy, and everyone's accent was a Cockney British accent, and I was really confused by this, because
Because
in the
they're
rest of
teachers.
Italy, it's a yes, all their teachers were from that part of England, so all the people who grew up in Parma have the same kind of Cockney accent as their teachers were. So it is possible that Elnor did his accent could have changed as well.
Well,
That is
just as
interesting.
like if you go to London these days, everyone speaks Hindi
Oh, is that true?
because
Oh,
most of
okay.
the
I don't.
population is Hindi based.
I can understand Hindi a little bit, but I speak Urdu. I also remember that I think it'd be cool if there were Australians actually on Vashti. I like that idea. That's a really neat
No,
idea. I hope
honestly, I
that
think
becomes canon.
I think it was really well done, because the moment I saw the kid on screen, I was like, all right, this is Kid Elnor. But we'd seen Elnor in the promotional footage, but as
Yeah.
an adult, but we hadn't seen the child version of him, or at least I hadn't. And the moment I saw the kid on screen, I was like, oh, wait a minute, this guy looks like Kid Elnor, because I think apart from the eyes, which I suppose they could have thrown some contact lenses on there. I don't know why they didn't. It wouldn't have cost too much to put some brown contact lenses on there. But
Forget contact lenses. You can do all that digitally now.
you could, yeah, they could have just modified it
You
digitally.
don't even need a
Although
contact
I'm
lens.
gonna be honest, I didn't notice it. Wife on the Tube did. I didn't. It was filmed in such a way that like the eyes contrasted so much with all of the lens flares and the bright scene that it just looked dark to me.
Hmm.
But I thought like the nose and the color of his skin, all of that was great. So I recognized him instantly. And I think that having that little kind of prequel 14 years ago thing, and then bringing him, showing him as a fully formed adult 14 years later, I think that was just genius.
The
Because
other thing
we
that's cool
already
about
feel like we already feel like he's a familiar. He's almost a returning character the
right.
moment he pops up, right?
Yeah, because we met him in the. That's another thing that the episode's pacing I thought was really beautiful, because you really feel like I've been feeling this way for all four of them, but like when I'm watching for the first time, I'm completely in the moment, like kind of like these sister nuns. Like I'm just completely captivated, and like I feel like for like 45 minutes, I'm 100% in this world. Maybe sometimes I'm out of it when we go to the board cube, but other than but all the Picard stuff,
Bummer.
I still like the board cube. I actually liked in this episode some of the exposition and information that we get regarding the Romulan version of Ragnarok, or Armageddon, if you will, or whatever. They have like this legend that this destroyer would come and all the demons would become unshackled and wreak havoc upon the universe and destroy
It
it.
feels so Agents of Shield. Everything going on the Borg cube just feels like, I don't know if you guys have watched like the recent seasons of Agents of Shield, but
I don't watch the show.
I
it's
never heard of it.
they're doing they're doing seasons and like basically science fiction seasons. Like some of it is Earth based, but some of it is space based. They film on these cheap science vessel kind of sets, and the plot is always doomsday or ridiculous, whatever. It feels so much. I don't know. It feels I really hope these two plot lines are going to tie in very well later on. But like as it stands, it feels like there's Star Trek Picard, the quality show, and then there's just these crappy tacked on scenes from this other cringy show that's like I don't know.
Yeah, you've made
I
it
don't.
clear you don't like any of the romance between Narek and.
It's not just the romance between Narek and Soji,
Is there a romance between
because
them?
the
Are you
Weak
kidding?
one.
They're in bed
yeah,
like every minute
kind
Because
they
of,
can.
yeah.
They're like-
whatever goes
it's
in
a
there,
very
I don't know
carnal. It's a very
absolutely
Yeah,
carnal
it's very
romance.
romance.
there's a very I mean I suppose it's a physical attraction, but the romance isn't that present in the sense like in this episode they're very easily separated. Like as soon as they start talking, they get pissed off at each other. But it's
Well,
just
we
that
find out
everything
that
going on is too. It's I don't know.
Soji is mistrusting, as she should be, of Narek, but even in that scene, which has a cool Easter egg, it has the Romulan ale bottle that they used in Star Trek 3 and throughout
Mhm.
Star Trek after that. But in that scene, I thought, I already like kind of think that in my opinion, I think Narek is a character that could turn and perhaps protect Soji, even though his mission is to try to infiltrate this like hive of synthetics, or whatever, like this, whatever, because I do think he like sees something in her that his sister doesn't see. His sister just sees her as like the destroyer, or like something that is threatening Romulan security, or actually, if she believes the legend, the security of the entire universe, right? Whereas Narek, I think, is like, how could this be the destroyer, is like his real opinion. Like, she's so like human, for lack of a better word.
There's even a character in
I would.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. called the Destroyer of Worlds. She's a
But that's
girl
like
called the
just
Destroyer
this,
of Worlds.
forgetting Shield for a moment, that the destroyer concept goes back to like Legends of Humanity. Like, they go back, it
Yeah,
goes
so
back
don't
to
do it.
like,
It's too cliche. It's
I
too.
love it. I think it's great. I want that kind of stuff, but not heavy. And I don't think they're doing it too heavy, in my opinion. I think it's like, something. But what were you gonna say, Blair?
Oh, just I think I'm unsure about that relationship so far. Like there's not enough character building between the two of them yet to like I don't I wonder if they're going to go the direction of like he falls in love with her and then decides to defend her and all that kind of stuff. That would be
Hmm.
sort of like the natural progression of that kind of relationship. But I feel like there hasn't been enough character like establishment of the two characters together to merit that kind of direction. So I wonder if there's got to be some sort of like trip up at one point, or some other like plot twist that is going to take it in a different direction, because it's leading in that way right now, right? Like just the way he talks about her and all that kind of stuff, and the way he sort of reacted with his sister in bed, which was also a very creepy scene. But
Very cringy. It's true.
yeah, there's
She's
there's
awful.
something.
His
Yeah.
sister, she's like the worst person on the in the quadrant. She's very like manipulative and awful, and just like, I'm glad my sister's so nice.
There is gonna be. I feel like there is gonna be like the natural, as you say, the natural progression is like there's a conflict of interest. So kind of like he starts defending Soji, and he has to fight against his sister or something. And so you can imagine, I don't know, like I almost feel like he's gonna flip over to like the good side, and then he'll find himself fighting his sister, and it'll be a battle between him and her, where she would clearly win. She seems like she's had military training, and she has like she she's the
Well,
strength in that relationship.
she's part of the
I think
Vashti,
they,
right? Or
yeah, I think they're both part of the, what are they called? The, not Vashti, but
or
Or the Jat Vash.
the
the
Jadva.
Jad Vash. My friend Ruben was pointing out there's a lot of shoushing sounds in Romulans with Romulans. But going back to reminding me of the Vashti, I had a question. What did you guys think of like the scene that showed kind of like life at the colony, where they're playing also triangular, another game that, or a form of cards with these like similar triangular um playing cards, and like in that scene it reminds me of like the Baku in a little way, like how they're like not like overtly technological, this colony. It's like very like, obviously there's shuttles flying around, and they probably have replicators and all that, but it's like really nicely integrated into this like kind of like just simple kind of lifestyle. But also it seemed like, to me, the Romulans here reminded me a lot of not just the Baku, but also the Mintakans, from like, if they had evolved more or become, or if the Mintakans were forced to become, because of the evacuation, they were forced to now upgrade technologically. Like, so they were like a very like agrarian type of society, and now like the Federation comes along and is like basically like, hey, we're really sorry, your star is going to explode, the star is going to explode, and it's going to mess up the atmospheric conditions on your planet, so guess what, you're now a member of the Romulan Free State or the Federation or whatever, and we're going to settle you on a new planet called Vashti. So I really like that there was a mix of, I just love that whole opening sequence, like in that village. It seems like a village that I would want to visit
I like the one
at that
set
time.
thing. They built one set, or I'm assuming, and then they
Like
filmed a
the
lot of it
town, the
there.
main street. It
Yeah,
was the
there's
main
like
street and the tree.
with the bar, right? But I love
Yeah.
that because it feels so TNG. How TNG they were always filming in that that same town with the fountain and the stairs, and it's like all of the episodes take place in that town. And
Just some
you
different
only
plots to
yeah, right. Like they add more plants on this place, so they put flowers there. Um, and they film it from different angles to make it seem different, but it's always the same place. And this felt like that. I like that.
Mm.
But it did feel like you're saying, what was it? I think is it Who Watches the Watches, the episode where
Yeah, with the Mintakans,
it
right?
was like Troy and Riker.
And
Yeah,
they're dressed up. They're like surgically altered to look like Mintakans.
yeah, as you say,
That's
it does
where
feel like one of those villages, but of course more advanced technology wise.
I kind of
Going back
felt
to your
after
that
the
question.
the top house with Elnor and the nuns had like a bit of a Japanese influence.
Mhm.
With the trees, I don't know, somehow the lightning and the trees outside just felt like we are in Japan or something. I know
It was Zen.
technically we're in California, but still.
the show. That's right. The show's filmed in California, isn't it?
Mhm.
I forgot about that. That's cool. I thought it was a Toronto production, like Discovery was.
No, Kurtzman said it'll be the only one that they're going to film out of Toronto.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, Blair, you're in Toronto. You're in T dot. Do you ever go down to the studio and just hang out? Is that allowed? Do you suppose?
I know where it is. A friend of mine was actually on the show. She was in the second episode. She played one of the prisoners in the shuttlecraft that got mixed up or whatever.
The that was your friend? Oh my gosh,
The Asian woman, Grace.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
In
she's
Discovery, you're talking.
yeah, in
Yeah,
Discovery.
Discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
I met Wilson Cruz.
He's
Here.
we'll bleep that out, but
Can you believe that? Okay, great.
needless to say, Wilson Cruz lives nearby, so you've met Wilson Cruz.
Yeah. So I met him on the street. Which
Oh, you
was,
cut out.
Oh, did I?
Oh,
Sorry.
that's so cool.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
just
So
for a moment, but we got the gist of it. Did you actually like engage with Wilson Cruz, or was it
yeah,
just like a?
I saw him. He was walking ahead of me, and I was like, I think that's Wilson Cruz, and like followed him very quickly. He walks very fast, so I was like following him really quickly. And then when I got a chance, I was like, "Excuse me, are you Wilson Cruz?" And he's like, "I am." And we chatted a little bit as he walked down the street. A very nice guy, super sweet. Took a selfie with him. And then I
That's
also
so
met,
cool.
I forget, one of the bridge crew works out at the gym that I work out at. So
Oh my god, I need to move to Toronto like
I know.
tomorrow. Like
I'm like
this
slowly
is...
tracking down all the crew. I was like, one day I'll meet everyone.
Is this the buff Asian guy from the
Yeah.
bridge? Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that he's a real buff, so I was like, it must be that guy.
Yeah. He was also super nice. He was coming out of the change room, and I just turned around and was like, "Sorry, are you on Discovery by any chance?" And he was like, "I am. No one recognizes me ever." I was like, "I got you. Don't worry."
Wow.
So what's funny is that like the entire bridge crew essentially are all Toronto actors, and because of my background in theater, I know a lot of people, and I've seen them in different theater productions here and all that kind of stuff. So I've sort of recognized them around town, which is kind of cool. But
Very cool.
yeah.
Oh my
Sorry.
gosh, I'm so starstruck right now. I'm looking up the cast real quick to get. I think the fellow's name is Patrick.
Yes, that's it. I'm really terrible with names, so.
Me too.
I love
so
Wilson Cruz so much. If I'm grateful, like the one thing that I'm grateful of Discovery for is Wilson Cruz. Like discovering him, I think he's fantastic. I think he's such like.
He's not discovered. He was Ricky on My So-Called Life.
I've never seen that. So
yeah, but
I discovered him on Discovery.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, gotcha. Sorry,
he was my revelation, and I will forever advocate for him to be. You know, they want an LGBT superhero in Marvel. Him, you need to pick him. He is the one. He's amazing. He's got the acting skills, and he's got the body, and he's so kind. He seems like legit the nicest person. So
he is super nice.
What did you guys think of the line that Zani hang on, sorry. My thing got interrupted. Did I interrupt?
So
did the screen get interrupted?
A little bit.
What's that?
I said #SoPro.
I know. This is the thing. I forgot to put do not disturb on. Oh, Nikes. Hopefully, sorry guys. Anyways, the question that I had here for everyone was Zani, who's the main, I guess the head warrior nun, she says to Kid Elnor, when he calls Picard out on a promise, he's like, promise is a prison, don't be another's jailer. What did you guys think of that? And like, I like that, how it just in that statement, it sort of tells you about their philosophy as a people. Do you think promise is a prison?
I like that line a lot, honestly, and I didn't write them down, but there's 2 or 3 quotable lines in this episode. I think the writing was really good in this.
Mm-hmm. I
So
love that line.
I don't know if that line is. I don't know if it's something that already existed and that like the writers took and kind of maybe changed it or something.
Right, which Star Trek does a lot of. Yeah, I didn't recognize it though.
If they made it up, but like I've never heard that specific expression before. But then I'm not a man of culture, but
going back to Gary's original point about how it felt like it was like a Japanese influenced type of scene, I felt like some of those kinds of like lines do come out of like a Shinto or Zen type of, you know, mentality, which comes from like Japanese culture. And then going further in our previous discussion, we talked about how like Romulans are basically space elves, and if you like Lord of the Rings, like this is also very reminiscent of like, you know, the Rivendell elves or even like the Lothlorien elves, how they live in a tree. Like there's like, you know, they're like they're very medieval in a way, but they're very modern, of course, because they do you think Elnor could have stood up to the blaster? What do you think? Because he was ready to go and they got beamed out later on when the cool fight happens with Picard, the fencing scene. You know, so I wonder what was going to happen there. Like, could Elnor fight off a blaster? What do you guys think?
Well, his sword ain't a lightsaber, so I don't think he would have been able to dodge it.
I had a. I think he has technology that's hidden in his like in his garb. And I wondered, because I don't know if this is going to happen. This is not a prediction. It's just something that I think would be cool. Is like, if you're shooting me with a blaster, there's like shield arrays in my sword, and so it creates like a wall in front of me. So all I have to do is like hold my sword up, and the blaster, like the Borg, you know how they have like a shield that comes over them when they've modulated to the frequencies or whatever. So it might be neat to have him still be able to use melee weapons like this, but have technology that supports it so that he can.
Personal
You're
force
shooting.
field.
What's
that?
that?
Like Worf used
last
in
release.
one of the episodes.
Oh, Worf does that too?
He did it in the Fistful of Data. He made up a personal force field for a few
minutes.
Yeah,
That's right. Oh my gosh, there is a precedent. It's true. I love that. So, you know, by this time you could have all that stuff be like micro, like it could just be in the fabric of his clothing or something, you know, like where, yeah.
I would think that their training would prepare them for that, right? For phaser blasters, because that's, you know, not everyone in space these days, or those days, I should say, ahead of us, fights with just swords. So I think having prepared for some sort of phaser battle would be a part of that.
There is something cool that like the other characters, like the bullies, had swords and blasters. So it looks like whatever they are kind of honorable in a sense, in the same way that like Klingons fight with weapons when they're fighting each other. Like they don't really use blasters on each other. They have them to fight with like other, you know, spacefaring you know beings that have, you know, particle weapons. But normally if they're fighting among each other, they're going to use like a batlet or a you know, whatever. So it is neat that like that is a thing that Romulans also do. And it made me wonder if like in ancient times there weren't like wars between Romulans and Klingons, you know, and that's why the Klingons hate the Romulans so much, is because they were actually formidable warriors with their swords and stuff like that.
That must have been. I mean, we know much little between the interaction between the two culture. I mean, just snippets from DS9 and very little from TNG. I'm sure there has to be some conflict between the two culture. I mean, evidently the Klingons are a warrior race. The Romulans are, you know, kind of want to get the territory as much as can. And if the first time they meet they don't agree, I'm pretty sure there has been a few, you know, conflict between the two culture.
The immediate thought I had with all this world building and stuff from this episode is like, I really wish Picard was 26 episodes a season. Like, I think that there's just like, I mean, come on, like in this episode we get a brand new planet, Vashti. This is like the first time we get a new planet in like the future of Star Trek. I guess we do get new planets on Discovery, so that they definitely introduced us to like Pavo. What else did we got? Is it Pavo the only planet we got? No, we got New Eden, the New Eden colony later on in
But
season 2.
that's far. That's like on the outskirts of the Beta Quadrant or whatever. That's
Right.
very, very far away.
Which, by the way, is sitting there having a happy day while all this is going on in Picard.
There's an amazing actor on that planet.
I know, we need to use him again. He was very cool. But
Which
yeah,
one?
so that's what was his character's name? Here, I'll tell you.
I forget, but he was awesome.
Which-
While I do that, were there any other planets in Discovery other than those two?
Earth. If that counts.
Well, we got the mycelium network, so that was
Cool. We got a new
Millions
world.
of planets.
They went to the what's it called? The planet with the cage people.
Oh, the Talos.
Yeah.
Talos 4.
yeah.
The character
New
is
planet
Jacob, and
and
the
there you
actor is
Oh, Jacob.
Andrew Moody. So just a shout
Andrew's a Toronto actor. Woo-hoo.
out. Yeah.
And
I love,
woman,
I love
the
how
priestess.
Toronto you are.
the priestess, that's Sheila McCarthy, who is a very well-known Stratford actor. So she's also it was cool to see those two on screen. Anyway,
Wow,
I
very
digress.
cool.
there's your background.
That's Zani.
I
You're
like
talking
her
about in this
character.
episode, Zani, right?
No, sorry, in Discovery, the one playing opposite Andrew Moody was Sheila McCarthy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. Very cool. Oh, I see her here. Yes. Nice. Oh my gosh, Blair, you're like the insider for Toronto performance community. I love this. This is so neat.
You're going to shoot a TV show here.
By the way, since
I will tell you who's on it.
I'm just gonna I love it. I'm gonna give a shout out to my family in Mississauga since we're at it. I don't know if any of them watch the show, but I gotta come and visit.
They're over there.
I have to. They're right over there, right? Can you see them from your window? Whoa! Trek on the Tube just left. He must have a baby on the tube. There must be a baby on the tube situation.
No, that's all right. He's got someone that's gonna come and change the boiler.
Oh, do you have a boiler?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you have one?
So after the credits, we get a little bit of like flirtation. Can you call it that, between Rios and Girardi? And I like the book that they named in that scene, and I plan to read it, even though it sounds really depressing. But it's called what was it called? Living with the Consequences of Death, or something like that, or Living with the Consciousness of Death, or something. I forget. It was some cool name.
Oh, I get
So
it.
But
that's the one he's reading on the ship, right?
right.
We looked that up, and I think it's about androids. Like, it's about robots, rather.
Oh, that was
There's something about that book that was we sort of read a quick description of it. It was like, okay, so there's some subtext there that we should be
I
looking
think
into.
Sean brought up that he thinks that maybe Rios might be a hologram himself. Was that you, Sean, that brought that up? I think.
Yeah, we were just having fun. I don't think Rios is really a hologram.
No, but
I was
it
just trying to
could
blow your
happen.
Tragic
mind. I was
sense
like,
of life.
imagine if Rios is the emergency command
Oh,
hologram
thank
on
you.
that ship.
Gary got the title, A Tragic
Sorry,
Sense
the
of
tragic
Life.
sense of life. Sorry to interrupt. I just
No,
Got it.
that's the point. It's fine. So the book is called A Tragic Sense of Life.
Yep. Don't
Yeah,
have
so
to be the
Rios
right
is
right
pretty-
too blurry. I can't see it.
Rios is a pretty somber character, obviously. Anyways, and then one of the favorite things of this episode that I liked, among other things, is that you could take Chateau Picard with you wherever you go in the future, as Jean-Luc does, where he
Yeah,
recreates.
they built the set, so
Yeah, but I love it. I love that you could take Chateau Picard. You could just walk. You're like, it doesn't matter where you are. I bet he did this all the time on the Enterprise E. He probably was just like, computer, run Chateau Picard program, and then he would go and he would just chill at Chateau Picard. It's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I want a holodeck now, just so I could go to Chateau Picard and live there.
I don't think he ever did it in TNG because he wasn't that
No, I know. This is
he
the
wasn't
first time
that
we see
he wasn't
this.
attached to the place, I think, in TNG.
Plus,
Whereas
But
his
it's
now
the
he's
first
still,
time-
brother was
still
there
live.
as well all the time, so he knew
Yeah,
that
but
Shadow Picard was taken care of.
yeah, this time he spent he's just now he's used to it. He spent 14 years there.
Yeah, it's true. Now, in the last episode, I was like, I would love it if Jean-Luc bequeaths Chateau Picard to Jabon and Laris, but now I want him to bequeath Chateau Picard to Elnor. I think Elnor is the son that Jean-Luc deserves. I think he should totally
The warrior
be
turns into a
adopted.
winemaker. That would be interesting.
I think that it would be very bold, very brave, but very good if they actually killed Picard by the end of the show, like season 3 or something. But he also names Elnor Picard.
Oh, I love that idea.
And
But he could do that without dying too.
No, it has more weight, and it also it ends Picard, right? It ends the story because people wanted closure on Picard's story and what have you, and Nemesis didn't bring that to them. This would be the end, but you would have
So
to
you're saying
confirm
like
that ending.
like how Captain Kirk got an ending, like you think Captain Picard or Jean-Luc Picard
Yeah.
should get like a similar. You want to see his death on screen. In other words,
I think that
eventually,
in the
whenever
world that
comes
we
out.
live in, I think it's important to start doing deaths on screen for characters because then you can do a Kirk when like his story ended in Star Trek 6, but we'll bring him back. Technically, they didn't bring him back. It was a wonky situation there, but you know what I mean. But then they killed him on screen,
Right, and
so
then
it's confirmed it's done.
James McAvoy could play young Picard.
Finally, someone
after
from
that,
Scotland.
right?
And we have to get Tom Hardy back to play him.
Do you think Tom Hardy? I think that would be cool too, actually. But I think James McAvoy kills it as Professor X, so it might be interesting.
I think that what you could do is if you start crossing over the timelines, you have like Tom Hardy bring him back as Prime Timeline Kirk or something, and then have James McAvoy be the Kelvin Kirk, and then you have them face off. Picard, and have them face off as like Picard and Picard.
Picard versus Picard.
What's so interesting about, I mean, this is the death of Picard is sort of alluded to already, right? Like we know that he has this terminal illness in the second episode.
Aromatic syndrome.
Advanced aromatic syndrome, yeah.
It immediately reminded me a lot of the storyline with the president in Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Where, we knew she was going to die and at some point, right? And it was just sort of a matter of time. And at what point did she actually pass away? Nice medical shit, by the way.
Yeah, when you mentioned the advanced aromatic syndrome and like Picard's death, I agree that for dramatic purposes it would be a beautiful kind of like note. And I think as a performer, Patrick Stewart would love to put that character to rest, and it would be an honor, I think, like a cool way to do it. But like I have so much love for Jean-Luc that I think that Beverly, who's probably serving as captain of the Pasteur, has been the whole time since she knew of this in All Good Things. She's been working on a cure for the advanced aromatic syndrome. So I hope they play that card instead. And that
you know what? They could play that, but still kill him. They could have like a whole thing where she comes. She's like, I found a cure. I've been working on this for all this long. It's like this big emotional buildup, but look, real life kicks in, and sometimes real life doesn't work the way you want it to, and it doesn't work, and he still dies.
No,
I think
you're making me cry already.
I bet you that was a big pull for Patrick Stewart to come back and do it, was that they said, we want to kill you off, but like
we want to end this story.
Yeah, like that,
I mean, it makes sense for these older actors to kind of put these characters to rest because Han Solo, what's his name? Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford's doing the same thing, and then we saw Hugh Jackman do the same thing in Logan. Like these characters, you play these characters for so long, and eventually you just want to stop playing the character, but then you don't just want to leave and then never come back, right? It's nice to really give the character an ending. It works great for the fans. And then I think it must be great for you as an actor to kind of be able to tell the end of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would make sense for them to kill Picard off. But I would really like him to name Elnor Picard. because there are no more Picards once he's dead.
That's how much you love Elnor. That's great.
There's
I'm
no.
all about it too.
I nearly cried in that scene in the beginning. All right, I like when he's reading the Dumas, and then they're doing the fencing, and then there's just this moment, like it builds until the moment where Kid Elnor just leans onto his shoulder. It was that moment It was that moment that got me. I was like, oh my god, this is Daddy Picard, and I don't know,
Daddy Picard.
Father Picard, Papa.
Father, I like Papa Picard. Yeah, no, that was very touching. Like I was caught into it hook, line, and sinker, and totally loved it. Very cool. Yeah, very dark. I think that after Jean-Luc dies, they should do like the credits roll, and then at the end of the credits, there's a scene where he's like, Jean-Luc, welcome to heaven, and it's Q. And that's it. Q is God.
Just or we like dovetail into the good place.
And we already got that.
You wish eternal horror upon Picard, because he would hate living all eternity with Q.
That's true. I forgot about that. Damn it. We haven't even gotten to the scene yet. I know, by the way, I know that there's like a time sensitivity. Oh, we're doing good on time. Okay, cool. We're going to try to stop at 4:30, guys.
What does 4:30 means for you?
In a half an hour.
Okay.
I apologize for the noise if there's too much noise, but
it seems fine. Right. No, we like this is so part of Blair may not know this, but we have an ASMR component in our audience, and we have a couple of we had one fan, and because I talked about it, we now have two people who listen for the I have to do this every time. We have two people that listen for the ASMR qualities of Starfleet Boy. And so they actually, something I used to kind of like tease Gary about was when he would chop vegetables, but they love it. That's like ASMR heaven. He doesn't really chop vegetables, by the way. He's typing on his keyboard, but it sounds like vegetables chopping.
I can't chop because my headphones are noise canceling now. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? That's okay, but you could talk like that. So this is for the ASMR audience, which now there's two, so maybe there will be more now. But so Sean, all the extra noises that usually pollute your videos streams, your audio streams, are very good for the ASMR audience. So it's fine. We get the so in that scene at Chateau Picard hologram, we basically get the download for Girardi about what's going on and why Picard has to make a detour and stop at this planet and pick up Elnor and everything. And I loved all of that, and I thought it read really well. So when you meet Man Elnor, I think that
grown up Elnor. He was a man before.
He was a child. He was a child.
He's got the perfect Romulan face, that actor.
So that actor is Evan Evagora, who he also models. He's and I think he's just genius. I think he's his debut. They made the perfect character for him. I don't know, and I can't imagine anyone else playing him. He's like great, but on top of that, he's very gracious and nice. Like I've interacted with him on Twitter. And he, now I'm sure his DMs are blowing up. But at the time when he first was cast, I reached out and I was just like, I'm so excited about this character. Like,
Romulan, come on.
I didn't just reach out to him because he's hot. I reached out to him because he's like new to Star Trek, and it was like a nice thing to do.
And he's hot.
He just happens to be hot, and
just happens to be hot. All
right. We had a debate on Starfleet Boy where I think Trek on the Tube was like visibly upset that I found Narek to be hot, and he says that Narek is goofy looking, and Larry Nemechek also chimed in and said that Narek was goofy looking. So there's like this whole thing, but it seems like with Elnor, everyone just universally is saying he's hot. So we need Gary Elnor, hot or not?
Toot or boot?
Toot or boot?
I Would you
Yes,
would you pick
I,
Elnor or
I
would you pick Narek?
I would never pick Narek.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, all
Poor
right. And
guy.
Blair, Eldor, hot or not? Tudor hoot.
Uh,
What did you say? Wait, Tudor boot.
Tudor boot.
Tudor boot.
Wait, which one are we talking about?
Elnor.
Elnor. First
Elnor.
Elnor.
Yeah, dude.
And then Narek.
Yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't kick him out of the bed, but
See? Yes, I agree with that. The actor who plays Narek, Carrie Treadway, is actually a lot more attractive. I think they definitely do some makeup on Narek to make him look a little bit more like
Yeah,
greasy and
okay, I do want to take a moment to say that because I used the word disgusting on Twitter, but I'm absolutely not talking about Harry Treadway. Treadway, I'm talking about the character because it's the way that they did his hair and what you know,
yeah.
they're not making him look good in the show. I find like
That's why
they
we
could have
said
reworked him to make him look better. I'm not saying that he's
right.
disgusting. I'm saying like the character, but it's also because there's the personality that goes with the character as well.
Right. You see beyond just physical beauty, Sean. You're looking further into the heart of the character, and so that's
Well,
what's
probably
disgusting.
that's probably why I find
Yeah.
Alison Pill so beautiful because I think that Dr. Girardi is just so fantastic.
Do you guys?
Character. She's so kind.
I love
Do you guys
her
think?
character.
She's
You
okay.
do?
Agnes is like the best character from Picard right now, and she's us. She's the exposition, kind of taker in, right? She's the one. She's us going, what the hell's going on, and we need to learn everything.
Yeah,
and she's so cool.
Yeah,
and I've been shipping her with Rios since like way before the show began. It makes sense to put them together.
That's awesome. We had our shipping moment.
She's also
I like
another
that.
Toronto actor. I'm just gonna keep pointing them out. Okay.
That's awesome. I love it.
After all this, Blair, you're gonna
so
get
she's a
like
Toronto
loads
actor,
of
but living
requests
in-
from everyone saying that, hey, can you get an autograph for us for some? You're gonna be a local distributor of Star Trek actor autographs.
I'm gonna monetize the crap
Oh
out
yeah,
of
he's gonna
this.
start selling autographs on the black market.
That'll give Blair a mission. He'll be our on the ground
Eyes and
reporter.
ears on the
eyes and ears on the ground. They're building a giant spire at the studio today. No, just you do have beautiful views of Toronto from where you live.
I do.
I do know that on your Instagram. Okay, so we got so distracted with the shipping. Thanks a lot. It just goes to show that we're all teenagers at heart here on Starfleet Boy. So we get okay, so what is going I have this I generally don't know what is going on with Soji. Like, what do you guys think? Like, speculation
Who the
or
fuck cares?
theories?
That explains it. And the conversation. Bye.
There's some feelings there.
All right. I think I know what you've been really waiting for. I don't know how big a fan of Voyager you are, Blair, but I know that Gary and Sean are huge fans of Voyager. The return of 7 of 9. Did it meet your expectations or not?
It was the perfect beginning to perfect entry for her into the show.
It truly
I think.
was. It was absolutely. I wasn't expecting this at all because I was expecting the trailers misled me in the sense that I thought that they were going to meet, like, in Chateau Picard or whatever, and she was going to say, "What the hell are you doing, Picard? Trying to save the galaxy?" Yeah. But then she pops out. Like, they edited that really well, and they misled us. And she just pops out. I'm like, "Oh, this is so cool." But I had a feeling it was a woman the moment they said the pilot is hailing us, and I don't know why. It's modern television that's conditioned me like this. When
well, there's a lot of gender misguessing in this episode because
no, but Raffi did say that it's a she. So Raffi did confirm that it's a she, and then Picard but we didn't hear or something. Yeah, she said, oh, hang on, you know what? I'm going to look for it just like real quick. But she said that it's a her. Hang on.
I don't remember that. I actually remember, her saying it was a he, and then also they all just assumed it was a he.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
thing. Modern TV does this a lot, where like they have you assume it's a male character, mostly because like traditionally it's always been a male character that maybe pops up or says the day, whatever, and so it's misleading. So I had a real strong feeling it was a woman, but I wouldn't have guessed 7 of 9, and the way she pops up is just like so perfect.
I thought the space battle was awesome. I thought it was really beautifully done, and I like that in the trailers the renderings didn't look, and I always thought like I hope they're more complete when we see them in the show. And so now when I go back and watch the trailer, it's 100% clear. Like you see, I do watch it in 6K, so I don't know if that makes a difference, but like you see every little detail,
How many
and
Showing
like
off
Ks do you have?
How do you watch it in 6K?
so the first time I watch it is on 4K, which is the television that's sitting right over here. But
Like us
my
plebes.
computer, yeah, so my computer, I mean the signal's not 6K, but my computer monitor on my iMac is a 6K monitor,
Okay.
so it does some kind of upscaling because it looks insane
Yeah.
on the screen. Like I highly recommend watching it that way, and if you have a little martini next to you, it's even better.
You know what? I'll send you my bank account number, and you can transfer the money
Yeah.
to buy one of these.
um, I would, if I didn't have this iMac, which I've saved for many years to afford, and it's like almost 6 years old. So I'm not like a technology whore or anything like that. I don't just like spend money like frivolously. But if I didn't have this iMac, I would go to the Apple store and watch it on their iMac. So I suggest you go. I suggest you go to the Apple store, Gary.
Pull up a
Is
chair.
there one in Glasgow? Is there an Apple store in Glasgow?
Probably, but I live in Edinburgh, so.
Chances
Sorry.
are they're all
Sorry, that's
quickly
right.
getting
But
over there anyway.
there's one in Edinburgh as well. Yes.
I've been to that
Well,
one.
they're
It's
gonna.
lovely.
Oh, you have, cool.
Yeah.
They have the new displays, which are insane K. I don't know what K they are, but
Insane game.
they cost 6K, so there must be like you get a K for each 1,000 that you spend. So you could go watch it. In fact, that's the next thing I'm gonna do is go watch Star Trek Picard at the Apple Store on an insane K
Do
TV
you
and
think the
see how it
Ks will
looks.
disappear one day if it all becomes holographic? There's no more Ks in holograms, is there?
It's
You'll
going to
still
turn into
have
L's.
density of Well, there'll be photonic particle density, right? So like you'll have the density of the photons, the particle density will be a thing. So it might be like 6K density or something at that point. So the Ks are never going to go away. You're going to always have the Ks. But apparently the human eye cannot really unless you're like a special human or a mutant, the human eye can't go much further than 6K. Like it's very difficult to justify like a 12K TV because you're not really seeing
Mm.
anything, at that point.
But
So I
I
think
bet
they're
you
going
at
to stop.
one point someone gonna come up with the idea and they're gonna make a big money out of it because just it's 12K.
I think the next step is holography for sure, but like more like the holodeck. Like that's not even, that to me is like where we should be investing a lot of time is like I would love like a little booth right here. And when I walk into the booth, I'm going to work at Chateau Picard. I'm doing my like regular job, but it's at Chateau Picard, and I interact with all my coworkers. But we're at Chateau Picard. It would be really wonderful. Like that would be a really cool technology without putting on goggles and a suit. I just want to walk in. I just want to walk into Chateau Picard whenever I
Yeah,
want.
virtual
That'd
reality seems like a step in the wrong direction. Like virtual reality doesn't seem like how
like it's gonna go to holodecks. You don't think that's
it
what's gonna
feels like two
happen?
different paths. I feel like holographic technology and virtual reality are two separate kind of technologies, and like virtual reality is not what's going to push us into holograms.
No, but I think that well, this is getting really nerdy and deep here, but but to get back to Star Trek, but that's what the holodeck is. It's a combination of virtual reality and holography, right? Like it's kind of like putting on instead of putting on goggles, you're walking into a room, and it's so I did this thing
Walking into
called
goggles.
well, I did this thing called The Void. It's a Star Wars experience that you could go. There's several cities have them. I don't know if your city will have it, but you can go. You basically put on a suit, like a jacket with a backpack and a helmet, and you're instead of like staying still, you walk through a bunch of rooms. So you're actually in real time experiencing the sensation of walking through. It did actually feel like the holodeck, because you're free from being standing in one place, and then there's objects that you interact with inside that like have like, so if you see R2D2, you can touch him and the dome part feels metallic on your hands. So like it's a combination of sensory like experiences. Oh, and then there's this part where you like go on this like little platform, and it takes you. Oh, there you go. There's one in Toronto, Blair. You can go experience this thing. It's called The Void, and it's a Star Wars virtual. It's like it's the first holodeck, in a sense. It's like a proto holodeck.
They've got like
anyways,
Avengers, plenty things.
As you're flying over the lava, you feel the heat and the wind, and it just feels 100% photorealistic. It's not photorealistic, but it feels very realistic. It's really cool. So I could see it that we're gonna get there. Wow, that was a crazy sidebar on Starfleet Boy. But we do that all the time. So so you guys loved the 7 of 9. Gary, you also loved the 7 of 9 introduction?
I love, but I was kind of expecting that it's gonna be her. Not that I knew, but you know, like
Yeah.
they said it at the very beginning on the title that Jerry Ryan
Oh yeah,
also
that's
appearing.
right.
So it's like kind of giving it away to to the element of surprise. So you're kind of expecting her to come in this episode, and I was expecting. And when I knew that she's gonna be the one who pilots that ship, so it was, even though they said it referred to that person as her, him, and as a he, as I just double checked, but they didn't mention a she, so I was my bad. But yeah, I was expecting, but of course when I seen her, I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. But
You're actually right. I did notice that too in the titles, that it's a special guest star.
So it's like if
Hey,
they wouldn't say, they would said it in the end, then I think that would be a bit better to expecting, because I was expecting the same way,
just
like
keep her names
Picard
off the
is just,
credits.
maybe I was
But I
actually
think
thinking maybe she's hiding in the ship somewhere, and then she hadn't got a chance to meet Picard yet, and she's like, oh, by the way, what the hell are you doing here, or something like that.
it may not have been a surprise, but it was actually delightful. So it ends up being pretty cool.
And then she's saying that Picard, you owe me a ship. That just like a hilarious first liner.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then she faints.
Yeah.
You owe me a ship, Picard.
Did there was something I learned about the opening credits. I don't know if you guys already knew this, but so the little melody, like do 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 ba 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 ba, that whole thing, like the main theme.
Mm-hmm.
Picard's son in the inner light, Kamin's son Batai in the inner light, is playing a very almost identical melody on his Resican flute in a scene where Kamin and his wife where Kamin's looking through a telescope and his wife and he are older and they're talking, and it gave me goosebumps because I had no clue. Like, that's a melody I'd never remembered, but someone on YouTube found out, and I linked to it in my previous discussion. But that was so cool to find out, because it's just like, now, like, I already liked the main theme, but that elevates it to me in a whole new way. The fact that like Jeff Russo would actually reference this very obscure, because everyone was saying like, I hope it's the inner light theme. That's what everyone was kind of like hoping. Well, not everyone, but like a lot of us. I was among that camp where I thought, oh, maybe they'll put that theme into the Picard theme, and they did, just not in the way that you expected. So I kind of love that, and it is a beautiful melody. So I just wanted to throw that little fact, a little Easter egg for Trek on the Tube.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I still don't like the theme, but it's pretty cool.
It's very rare that we.
Did you watch the interview with Jeff Russo talking about the whole like how he came up with the theme?
Yeah, but he doesn't mention that in that. He just mentions that he used the Resican flute. He used a piccolo because it resembles the Resican flute, but I don't know. I mean, they could have cut that out. He may have mentioned it and they didn't edit it in, but it was it's pretty, you guys can go check for yourself, but to me it's like a very obvious reference to that.
But I like Jeff Russo. I think he does a really good job, and I think he's doing a really good job scoring all these episodes. Because
the battle sequence,
there's the Voyager theme that plays when 7 appears.
Yeah.
But like a little quick in the piano, like just dun, dun, dun. Like that was like, yeah, it was really cool.
Was there any? Because I think the music just cut out when she appeared.
It's very subtle.
Oh my god!
It's like in it,
have to rewatch it.
it's there, and it's definitely there, and yeah, it's super cool, and yeah, he's really killing it. I think Discovery's score was really good too, by the way. I listen to that a lot. I love I call it incidental music, like when you're just working on something and you need music in the background. And I often go to the Discovery, both season 1 and season 2. But here he's doing something really special because he's making so many references to past
Well, he
Star
did that with
Treks,
season
you
two.
know.
Discovery season two score I think was arguably better than season one, but that's again because he was doing the same thing. He's doing a lot of these little references to the original series and the cage and what have you. But he does a really good job with this because he takes care of Fargo as well.
On TNG, we had Dennis McCarthy, who went on to score the Generations film score, and then we also had Jay Chataway, and I feel like Michael Giacchino and Jeff Russo are like the kind of, because they're both scoring. And then I loved how the most recent short treks introduced us to a bunch of new composers, because I think each of them had like a different composer. So it's really exciting time for musicians as well, I think, if you want to be a part of Star Trek. But yeah, I love all that stuff. What else did I write down in my notes here other than Man Elnor? We talked about Man Elnor already. We could keep talking about Man Elnor. It's okay. The first time he talks to Elnor in that scene, two things that were really touching that I wanted to point out for myself was when he's like, "Did you miss me?" And that was like a really perfectly kind of played out scene. And then Picard's like, "Yes, of course." And then the fact that he like remembers the fact that Picard told stories about Data to kid Elnor, and he remembers those stories later, you know, when he's listening to his proposal. And then he even says like, "Oh, you told me about Data. He has a cat named Spot," and
That was
you know,
really
and then he
sweet.
says like, yeah, then he says like, "I've never even seen a cat," and I was like, I saw this on the internet, so I'm stealing this, but I hereby bind my sword to Elnor's quest of seeing a cat. So I hope he sees a cat sometime in the season, and I hope I hope
I
it's
think they are
Spot.
going to pay
Maybe
that off. They didn't say that
yeah, I think
random.
so too. You never know.
Spot probably has grandchildren at this point.
All right, so who's that?
Spot probably has grandchildren at this point.
Oh yeah, it's true. And maybe they live with Riker and Troy.
Maybe.
So nothing's going in the order I thought it was going to go in the trailer. I actually thought by episode 4 we would have met Riker and Troy already, but we haven't. So it's really interesting how the show's actually playing out. And I also think it's really cool how much information we got in the trailers. Like I feel like there's a lot that we haven't even seen yet that we had glimpses of in the trailer, but those things are becoming fewer and fewer now. So
It's because we expected the trailers. Well, I mean, for my part, I thought that the trailers really encompassed maybe the first 3 episodes only.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't expect the trailer to show until episode, what is it, 6 or 7 or whatever it is. I thought it was just going to be like the first few episodes, because usually trailers. I mean, Discovery, they showed us the trailer for the moment. No, not a trailer. Yeah, they showed us a trailer for Discovery season 3, and from what I gather, it's basically the first 2 episodes. So
to wrap up this episode of Starfleet Boy, I want to hear, because we've only been praising the episode. Do you guys have any like major qualms or nitpicks about this episode?
I have no major qualms and nitpicks. I have like small nitpicks, but this is the thing. This is probably the first Picard episode or episode of like since Discovery where I'm just like I sat down and I really enjoyed it. And if I'm searching for something that I disliked, it's because I'm kind of searching for it. And I think at this point, it like in this episode, it just boils down to sometimes it doesn't feel as Star Trek as I would want it to feel like. I would have enjoyed it maybe if Picard stepped away, stood still, and then was beamed up rather than getting beamed while he was walking down the stairs. if that makes sense,
But
because that feels more
that's
Star
just a
Trek to
matter of
just
like,
moving away and instant. I know it's not a complaint, and
it's
you can
just like,
justify this a
no,
million
no, I
ways.
know.
I know.
I
I'm
guess it's
just
true.
saying that these are the things
You
that
would
make
have
it
liked
feel more
him to
Star Trek.
just stand there.
They all have blasters, and I'm fine with blasters. But if they had phasers, the traditional, it would feel more Star Trek. But these aren't. I can't like.
Yeah.
This doesn't take away from the quality of the episode. This is just my personal feelings about
I,
how
I
they can
just
make it
don't think
feel
any of
more
the
Trek.
things I just don't think that any of the things you pointed out personally are what makes Star Trek feel like Star Trek, but I hear what you're saying
Well,
because
there's
like I
a
think
lot
that
of people
like
that I know that are casual Trek fans that don't go online, don't interact with everyone, like people at the Wife on the Tube's job, people at my job. These are just people that they watch Star Trek, but they have no fan interaction, whatever. They watch Star Trek because they knew TNG, so they started watching Picard, and they all say the same thing. It doesn't feel very Star Trek. That's what they say. And this isn't because I'm telling them, this is they're telling me. And
but
I'm
it's your job to make them feel like it's Star Trek #1.
no, it's the job
No,
of
I'm
the
just
show,
kidding.
isn't it?
No, I'm just kidding.
So
But
it has to be
that is
because of
interesting
something,
that
and
you
it's the casual
that is
swearing as well.
interesting.
Rios just says, "Oh, I hate the fucking hologram
Oh,
or whatever it
the
is." It's
emergency.
the casual lingo as well is maybe part of that. I don't know, but they're
I
not
think
major
that like
complaints.
I think yeah. I didn't mean to get into an argument. I apologize, but I think that ultimately what I'm feeling is just like, come on, people! Like it doesn't have to feel the same as TNG. Like kind of be open hearted as the Romulan elves are, and just kind of like see where this show's going. And but I guess the fact is that I actually like all those elements. I like that. I don't want Jean-Luc to swear. That's kind of a thing that I have, but I do like that. Like the people around him are more gritty and like this is a different side. This is not Starfleet. We're not seeing like the protocol that we're used to and stuff like that. And I also kind of think that like, my own feelings of what Star Trek should and shouldn't be are being challenged in many ways, and I like it too because I think that I said this earlier too, is that I just trust that the character, there's so many people that are like what Star Trek represents to me involved with this, that I trust at the end we're going to get there. We're going to get to a place that we're going to be all like, oh my gosh, that was a great message, that was a very important thing to know or understand, like something that helps to connect people and not divide them, which is I think also something that feels like Star Trek to me. And I think this show's headed there, but we'll see, because the internet's the internet. And it's
Picard
always
makes a
there's
point.
always going to be a divide.
Picard makes a point of saying you shouldn't have decapitated that man.
Right, which is very, I think that's a very like
I
good
like
thing.
that.
Like that's, yeah, it's very cool. Like if you want to talk about what feels like Star Trek, that definitely feels like Star Trek. Also, I noticed that Patrick Stewart's voice quality was superb. He was using his more commanding like voice throughout the episode, which is the first time since it started. He's been very like kind of feeble sounding up until now, and like on the planet when he's like, no, I won't fight you, and he's like very like, he like, another scene I loved was when he stands up once the guy reveals that he used to be a Romulan senator. He stands up to give him respect, and he stands with his arms behind his back in like a Starfleet like respectful stance, which was a really beautiful subtle thing that they did to show, this is the diplomat. Here he is. Like, this is
I
our
want a short
Picard.
treks on him when he was a senator
I know, it'd be really cool.
because he was
And then the
amazing.
other, the other thing, and I was hooting and hollering at the screen, was when Picard apologizes for on behalf of the Federation and himself, because he did, regardless of whether you like this or think it's a very Picard thing or not. The show establishes that Jean-Luc abandoned these people for 14 years. Like he went to Chateau Picard and just like never thought to call Elnor to check in on him. No, but like it's a big deal. Like in the earlier scenes, like he's like concerned about Elnor. He's like wanting Elnor to find a home. He knows that he can never, that Elnor could never have a full life being like a sister initiate that can never be a sister by just the fact that he's born a male, right? So like, and even Zani says it. I'm going on a soapbox here, sorry guys. But my point is that like Picard, like that was to me what I call the full Picard, and he was just like so, that was like such a inspiring and commanding thing, and it made me like question in my, which is what I love and what I want Star Trek to do, is it made me question in my own life, am I participating in my community enough? Am I investing in the people around me enough, or am I just retreating and abandoning into my Chateau Picard? And it's like a cool kind of lesson to like come out of, and that's what it did for me. So there we go. So I would say that would be my argument to Wife on the Tube and your community who says it doesn't feel like Star Trek. All right, so at the end of Blair, since this is your first time, at the end of the show we give a rating,
Okay.
and I usually go first because no one trusts my ratings. I'm very Romulan in that way. They think that I'll change it based on everyone else's ratings, but I give this episode a 10 out of 10. We have a scale on 1 to 10, so that's my rating. So who wants to go? Do you want to go last as per like Starfleet Boy tradition, Blair, or do you want to hear the other ratings first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna say like we hear Gary's rating next.
10. I could give 11, but I can't give 11, so 10. 10 plus.
You can. No, you could do whatever you want. 10 plus. All right,
What? I thought it's like 1 to 10. That's what you said at the beginning. Like, it's like let's 10,
you're
10
allowed
plus.
to break from formula. It gets rounded to a 10 though to do the average, so it doesn't matter if you give
Okay,
anything.
I'll give 10. I'll give 10 plus, an 8. I don't know.
Sean,
Is it me? All right, I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8.5.
that's like a really high rating for Sean. That's amazing. Wow, that's your first 8 on Picard, right?
No, the premiere was 8.
Oh, but this is 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you liked it more than the premiere.
It's a very good episode, cool. Honestly.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would give it a 9. I would say it's a pretty damn good episode.
So 2 10s, a 9, and an 8.5. So I think the average is 9.5.
I thought you were going to average it up to 10.
Actually, why not? Let's just average it up to a 10. Are there any closing thoughts you guys want to say before we go? Since I went on that space rant about Picard, is there anyone who wants to give a closing statement before we go?
You don't know me a ship.
You don't know me a ship.
Just as sort of jumping off what you were saying, Sohail, that I really love where Alex Kurtzman is taking Kurtzman. Is that right?
Yeah, Kurtzman.
Yeah, okay. Where he's taking the whole series and whatnot. I'm enjoying the fact that it's not episodic anymore, and that there's a whole story, like a through line through the whole series. And I'm excited to see where they take things. Like I think Picard's going to be a really fascinating. The fact that Patrick Stewart wouldn't go back to it until he heard what they had planned for it makes me feel that this is going to be a very good show overall. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Awesome. We're at the part of the show before we sign out where we promote everyone's endeavors. So Blair, do you have anything going on that you'd like to promote to our audience?
Sure. On my off time when I have it, I and my friend Jen run a not-for-profit called Department of Imaginary Affairs. You guys can all check it out at dia.space. And we have a couple projects on the go. One called The Stories of Us, which is helping newcomers learn English through their own stories. So we're collecting stories and translating them from their home language into English and creating a whole new library of books for that. And then another one called The Storybook Project, which is a huge 10-foot by 12-foot book that we're collecting stories. And I'm doing that on Monday. I will be out at a place called the Evergreen Brickworks. So
is the Storybook project something that any of us can contribute to?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of nationally focused, so a Canadian not-for-profit, and we're collecting stories about what people think of Canada and where they're at, and specifically around youth and newcomers. But you can definitely read. I think we have a couple of them up on. We're sort of rebooting this project, so it needs a bit more work at the moment. But
very cool. Those sound like really great things. Excellent. I'll make sure to put links in the description too. Gary, what do you got going on?
I finished baking the roll that I just sent you a picture of. No, other than that, not much. Sugar Prize is coming back for season 4, hopefully in March, as it promised. I'm still writing the blog, which I'm
Which I'm
actually
really enjoying.
actually quite enjoying writing as well.
Good.
I never really did that before, so it's quite good. Just as a fellow graphic designer, I started my I finally was able to put together a website as well for my new gig here.
I'm gonna interrupt for a second, and Blair, I don't know if you saw on YouTube for Starfleet. Gary is the only designer for he designed the whole YouTube. All the graphics are Gary.
Oh, cool.
Like everything, that's all Gary. So Starfleet Boy is completely
Powered by Gary.
powered by Gary. It's true.
No,
So
it's not
yeah,
true. I'm
we
not
really
powered.
appreciate Gary's services here on Starfleet Boy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well done.
I was
do it, but
actually excited about the two of you meeting, just because I know I've always appreciated your design endeavors, Blair, and I love Gary's design work. So maybe the two of you can, talk amongst yourselves later and
Talk all
shop.
Illustrator and Photoshop filters.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. I don't even use Illustrator, and I use Photoshop, but I hate Illustrator. I'm a Corel Draw person.
Oh, okay.
So there, the debate can begin.
Okay,
That's awesome.
No, well, yeah,
All right, cool.
that's what I've been doing. Some writing, planning on, and also planning on a podcast that I hinted a few times all over here. So there's some works going on too. And if anyone interested, rocktigerdesign.com is the graphic website, so you can check it out and
Excellent.
hire me if you
And
like what's there.
100% endorsement.
Oh my days,
Definitely
that's like
hire.
shameless self-promotion right there.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You guys give me all your time, so I got to give you a little plug here at the end of the show. And speaking of plugs, Trek on the Tube, what do you have going on?
I'll be doing my episode 4 review sometime soon. I should be writing it this weekend and then putting it out late as usual. And that's it.
It's not a horse race.
No,
Yeah,
well, I
it's
try
actually
to take,
not a horse race.
I really take the time to try and, watch these episodes multiple times because opinions do change and you get a better understanding. Especially
It's also
once
they're very dense.
They are,
Yeah,
but
they're
I
like
mean, you
dense,
miss so many things. And then talking with you guys and everyone else, it helps you better understand certain elements as well. So it is helpful to release these reviews later on. And then these things are so jam-packed with Easter eggs that it's just insane. You have to like watch the screen and be like, oh, what did they say? What's that little writing that they've got down there? And then you still miss things. People point out Easter
But
eggs
you have
that I
a whole
missed in the
team.
comments.
Sean, you have a whole team.
I have a whole team. I got the Canon
looking
cop.
out for things for you. Yeah, it's all good. Well, the battery's about to run out on the emergency podcasting hologram. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. I look forward to more discussions. I'm going to try to keep it to just 2 Star Trek Picard podcasts a week. I'm not sure. Just 2, but I'm not sure. I might go crazy. Who knows? We'll see. As far as Starfleet Boy is concerned, the only thing we have to promote is this Starfleet Boy and Drunk Space Nine, which is another show that we do. Which, Blair, I don't know if you're interested, but I can tell you more about that. And thank you, thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show. As always, live long and prosper, and also, Joe Lon True.
Yeah. Still untrue.